Hello everyone, I'm Nidhi Sekhon. This video will cover the complete topic of Mughal school of miniature painting. The first subtopic is origin and development. The time period is from 16th to mid 19th century AD. The origin of Mughal school of painting is a landmark in the history of painting in India. It was a new style, a new sophistication, and a lot of refinement in Indian arts of that time. What they have left in art and architecture is still cherished in our country. A new culture of painting developed under the patronage of Mughal rulers. Their art was a blend of Islamic, Hindu, and European visual culture and aesthetics. The Mughal ateliers, the Mughal workshops consisted of calligraphers, painters, gilders, and binders. Calligraphers were the persons who used to write, and calligraphy in Islam is considered to be of a great value. Painters were also given a lot of importance. Gilders are the people who work in gold leaf, and there were binders who used to work with manuscripts. Behzad was a very popular artist of that time. He was a Persian artist who was also known as Raphael of the East. He was a great painter who worked in the court of Sultan Hussain Mirza and later in the court of Safavid ruler Shah Ismail. An important thing about Mughal art was that it was mainly a court art. The paintings were used to record and document significant events, personalities, and interests of the emperors. They were meant to be seen by the rulers only, and the paintings were made to suit the taste and preference of the rulers. The first Mughal emperor was Babar. He was a descendant of Emperor Timur and a Chagatai Turk called Genghis Khan. Babar was not only a brave warrior but also a great admirer of arts. He was mostly in battlefield, so there was very little time to promote art. Babar was the one who established a tradition of keeping memoirs or chronicles, which was later followed by all his successors in India. Among the artists who find mention in Babar's memoirs is Behzad, whose work he saw when he went to Herat, and another artist who finds a mention is Shah Muzaffar. Humayun took over in 1530, but he had to spend 13 years in exile in Iran after being pushed out by Sher Shah Suri from India. He took shelter at the court of Persian ruler Shah Tahmasp, where he got a chance to admire the Persian artworks. Later, he invited the famous artists Mir Sayyid Ali of Tabriz and Khwaja Abd Samad of Shiraz from Behzad's lineage to India. As a matter of fact, Abd Samad of Shiraz gave drawing lessons to little Akbar. Humayun founded Nigar Khana, the name of his painting workshop, which was also part of his library. The kind of work that Humayun preferred was open-air painting with trees and flowers and scenes of royal celebrations. Humayun was a book lover. He was a bibliophile but was busy in wars and battles. But he got started the paintings of Dastane-Amir Hamza, also called as Hamza Nama, which was started in his time but later finished during Akbar's rule. Then came the great Akbar. He was only 13 when he started ruling. He was very keenly interested in art. A large number of Indian artists from all over India were recruited to work in his court under the direction of Mir Sayyid Ali and Khwaja Abd Samad. Abul Fazl, the court historian of Akbar, has recorded that there were more than 100 artists who were employed in his workshops. Akbar himself was a dyslexic, so he had a difficulty in reading. Therefore, he was very interested in making pictures or illustrations of manuscripts. So it was under his patronage, under his directions, the translations and illustrations of manuscripts started happening. He was of a very noble opinion that through painting only one can realize the existence of God. We see God in painter because according to him both were creators. Akbar was very fond of portrait painting. He himself used to sit for his own portraits and even got the several portraits of his courtiers also painted. In 1580, Akbar received the Catholic priests who presented him with a copy of translated and illustrated Bible which had Flemish engravings in it. Akbar told his artists to copy these artworks. Soon the European influence came in when more paintings were brought to his court. There are even records that colored versions of Durer's engravings were also done in his court. Durer is the artist from High Renaissance from Europe. Now a few examples of manuscript painting done during Akbar's rule. You don't have to remember them, but just look at them once so that something stays in the mind so that you can answer the MCQs. There were around 24,000 manuscripts which were part of Pothi Khana of Akbar. The illustrated classical Persian literature such as Nizami's Khamsa, Sadi's Gulistan, Hafiz Diwan and Jami's Baharistan. Then the important one, Hamza Nama, which is recorded to have 14 volumes with 1400 illustrations and took nearly 15 years to complete under the supervision of Mir Sayyid Ali and Abdas Samad. Then there was Tarikh-e-Alfi, which was history of the world. Then Jami-ut Twarikh or Jami al-Twarikh, which is history of the Mongols by Rashid Uddin. The artists were Basavan, Lal, Bhim, Gujarati, Dharamdas, Madho, Surdas Gujarati, and the most commendable for this work was Miskina. Then Twarikh-e Khandane Timuriya, or also called Timur Nama. The main painter here was Daswant. Then Darab Nama, the artists were Nanha, Bura, Shravan, Kanha, who were familiar with European art, and also Miskina. Then Shahnama and Babarnama. I stand corrected here. Shahnama was done during Mughal rule. Shahnama is the chronicles of a king. Now I'll quickly read a few more. Akbarnama, which was about Akbar's political and personal life. It was one of the most expensive works done during Akbar's rule. It had more than 100 paintings, and the artists mainly that were involved were Shankar, Daulat, Govardhan, Inayat, Pidarat, Balchand and Miskina. Then Changiz Nama and Zafar Nama were also painted. Then Tuti Nama, which is Tales of a Parrot. Then Razam Nama, which was translation of Mahabharat. It was done in 3 volumes, made between 1588 to 89 under the supervision of master artist Daswant, and it contained 169 paintings. Then Anwar Suhaili and Ayar Danish, which is like collection of fables like Panchtantra stories. Then more Hindu themes like Ramayan, Harivamsa, Nal Damayanti, Katha Charit Sagar, Shakuntala, Kaliya Daman, Dasavatar and Krishna Charit. We also see a painting of Madonna and Child done by Basavan in 1590, which is a proof that Europeans were in contact with the court of Akbar. Then important artist was Keshu Das, who understood and developed European techniques of space and volume. Then some more artists, Mukund, Manohar, Farooq Beg, Kulmak, Jagan, Mahesh, Tara, Khemkaran, Ram, Harvansh, Jagannath and Savla. Out of this, I think what is important is Akbarnama, Razamnama and Madonna and Child. Jahangir, our next emperor, was a great lover of art and nature. Under him, Mughal art became more refined. He had great fascination for flora and fauna, and it is said that his artists used to accompany him even when he went for hunting. There are large number of paintings based on birds, flowers, animals during his time, so we can say that artists got fresher inspiration and fresher subjects under Jahangir. Portrait painting was also very popular under Jahangir, and it actually became more refined and achieved new heights. He also used to prefer group portraits as well as court scenes. We also see a lot of full-length portraits with flat backgrounds, which are confidently done by his artists. Earlier, before Jahangir, these used to have a lot of buildings or designs behind them, but now they had flat backgrounds. There are even portraits of ladies found during Jahangir's time. The European influence that had started with Akbar became more advanced during Jahangir. The Christian themes were also done, and we see more depth in composition as well as more naturalism. In Jahangir's time, there were murakkas. Murakkas are the individual paintings without any writing. And these paintings had beautiful margins made with gold and a lot of floral designs on them. The other subjects that were taken up were war scenes, portraits of royal personalities, narrative and storytelling that was happening during Akbar now had more minute details. There were lavish court scenes and distinct flora and fauna. A new technique also developed during the time of Jahangir called Syah Kalam. Syah Kalam were the paintings done with black ink. Then important work during Jahangir's time is Jahangir Nama, or also called Tuzuke Jahangiri, which contains the documents, the memories, the memoirs of Jahangir. Then the other important works are Ayar Danish and Anwar Suhaili. Now the important artists of Jahangir. Jahangir employed Akka Riza, well-known Persian or Iranian painter, and his son Abul Hasan. He was also a great appreciator of a bird painter called Ustad Mansoor, and Bishan Das, who was a portrait painter among the other Hindu painters. Then Basavan's son Manohar was also very famous during Jahangir, and other artists are Bichitar, Balchand, Mukhlis, Daulat, Bhim, Inayat, Madhu, Anant, Muhammad Murad, Muhammad Nadir and Govardhan. Then comes Shah Jahan. We know him for Taj Mahal and Red Fort. He has left his mark in architecture, and the art of painting that developed during Jahangir In Shah Jahan's time, it became more decorative, it became more grand because he wanted to leave his mark on it. So everything was beautified more and there were more fine lines in everything. The important work done during Shah Jahan is Padshahnama, which is Chronicles of a King. Shah Jahan had great love for sparkling jewels and gems. Even in Taj Mahal and his architecture, there is a lot of beautiful inlay work which has gems and jewels in them. He had passion for something which is more grand, which is monumental. So the imperial portraits which were done during him had glorious titles on them. The subjects that were taken were again royal, historical and mystic subjects, where he is also shown with sitting with saints. Among the few artists which were known in Shah Jahan's time are Manohar, Muhammad Nadir, Vichittar, Govardhan, Honhar, Chitraman and Balchand. Then Govardhan is one artist who was present in the ateliers of all Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan. Another important portrait painter during Shah Jahan was Mir Hashim. Then came the fanatic ruler Aurangzeb, who was generally against all fine arts. So most of the artists, when they did not find much future in Mughal workshops, they went to hills and Deccan regions where they got shelter as well as patronage. Another ruler came called Bahadur Shah, who tried to revive it, but somehow the glory was almost lost. Then two other rulers were Muhammad Shah Rangila and Shah Alam II. But somehow Mughal art did not revive after that. So to sum up Mughal art, we can take these 3 points that it was one court art because it was meant for the royals. It had grandeur, it had flamboyance, means they wanted to show off their wealth, they wanted to show off their discipline and the way they ruled. And plus it was a very refined art which brought refinement in overall art of India. Then the shortcut method of remembering all of them is Bhajsa. That is Babar, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. Now let's look at the curve also. With Babar it all started, Humayun took it further, Akbar and Jahangir took it to the top. Akbar was the one who believed in mass production and he had huge number of artists in his atelier. With Jahangir came scientific correctness and more refinement. Shah Jahan believed more in stylization and decoration. With Aurangzeb, there was downfall and later a few rulers were Bahadur Shah, Muhammad Shah Rangila, Shah Alam II and the last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar. So this art started with Mughals and somehow ended with Mughals. Now if you want to see a few artists like you see miniature artists of Pahari and Rajasthan miniatures who were still trying to keep it alive, there is a place in Lahore where Mughal miniatures are still kind of practiced. Now let's quickly do the method and material of Mughal miniatures. I have covered this already in Rajasthani miniatures part 2. Please go through it, in which I have also said that the method remains same, but the material can differ from region to region and the terms can also differ. So the first step was that sheets of handmade paper were used and they were cut to the size of the manuscript. Then designated space was left for the artist and pages were ruled and filled with text. Then the making of the composition had different names, like Tara was a sketch, Amal was for painting, Chiranuma was for portrait, Surat for figure drawing and Rangamezi for coloring. Then came the burnishing part, in which agate stone was rubbed on the backside of the painting and the painting would get shine from the front. Then the pigments and colors that were used were vermilion was for cinnabar, ultramarine for lapis lazuli, bright yellow for orpiment. Then shells were for white, lamp black for charcoal and golden and silver leaves were also used to bring royalty and that kind of shine to the painting. Then the brushes that were used were from the hair of squirrels or kittens. Next is the characteristic features of Mughal paintings. First is the choice of subjects. The subjects were secular and eclectic. Secular all of us know because they took all kind of subjects, and eclectic means the subjects, since they were Islamic, they did not take subjects only from Islam. They take subjects from India, they took subjects from literature, from everywhere. So their subjects were eclectic. Then first category is Indian and Islamic epics, which are Ramayana, Mahabharat, Nizami's Khamsa, Sadi's Gulistan, Jami's Baharistan. Then stories were also done like Nal Damayanti and Panchtantra stories. We know the names Amar Suheli and Ayar Danish. Then historical scenes were also painted like Hamza Nama, or also called Qissa-e-Amir Hamza. Then flora and fauna were also painted. Then the next was chronicles or memories or diaries of Mughal emperors, in which you see the whole history of Mughal Empire. One example is Padshahnama, which is chronicles of Shah Jahan. And these paintings were all about showing how these kings lived, what they wore, how they enjoyed, how they fought wars. Painting of portraits was very prevalent at that time, and in fact this characteristic feature also influenced Rajput art to a great extent. The portraits were done for rulers, for courtiers, for even the portraits of Hindu and Muslim saints were also done. Like Akbar got the portraits of Surdas, Tulsidas, Mirabai, Vallabhacharya, etc., and also Muslim saints like Sheikh Salim Chishti, Sheikh Fool, and also Kabir. And the other subjects were court scenes, hunting scenes, battle scenes, music and dancing scenes, processions, and also wedding scenes, etc. Next important characteristic feature is that they were more of profile faces. Almost all the portraits were ek chashma, that is single-eyed or a profile face. The figures could be full or half, but the faces used to be ek chashma. Generally, they were done as ek chashma, though we do find ded chashma, which was more prevalent in Persian art. Mughals preferred ek chashma faces. Another important feature is that they used to put nimbus or halo around the head of the royal king, and this is how we can make out in the painting. This is how the ruler stands out. They used to be very proud of their power and they wanted to show it off. So like spiritual saints, there are halos around the royal kings also. Mughal art or miniature art of that time was more of a craft than fine art because this was all joint production. The chief artist would decide the composition or the whole layout, and the juniors, his apprentices, would execute the various parts. Some would do the sketch, the second one would do the background, the third one would do the figure, somebody for portraiture, and all this thing was divided. And even the basic drafting, grinding, filling of colors, the work was divided and distributed. And they were paid accordingly and given honors accordingly. There is special decoration with borders, and this is one characteristic feature that they borrowed from Persian art. All the paintings had decorated borders and they were golden, and most of them had floral or animal motifs, and even Persian script was written on them. Sometimes the borders were more prominent than even the painting. There are very beautiful fine lines with minute details in these miniatures. The miniatures are so small, but the lines are also equally fine. They are extraordinary in portraits, and sometimes you see that even every facial hair has been done wonderfully. The details are so minute, the stippling part, the delicate shading part, all this shows the dedication of the artists. Next feature is European influence. This started with Akbar when they got European engravings, and this is what influenced their naturalistic treatment and brought three-dimensional effect. They started lowering their horizon, and earlier they used to do multi-layered perspective. So single point perspective came in, then realistic animal compositions and proportions started making, and they also adopted the technique of shading to bring out the three-dimensional effects. The garments of Mughal style are very beautifully done in Mughal paintings. The chunnis are mostly transparent. Most of the garments are of summer season. The males wear angrakhas and chudidar pajamas, and even their turbans are decorated, and they are done according to their social status. Next important feature is depiction of nature, animals and birds, that is depiction of flora and fauna. The trees, plants, rivers, mountains, everything have been done very beautifully in Mughal art. The natural scenes, if there are 3 trees in a painting, every tree has been done accurately. In terms of birds and animals, we already know Ustad Mansoor, he was the best bird painter of his time. There is falcon on a bird rest in your syllabus, which is a good example. Then elephant fights, camel fights, lions, tigers, horses, goats, everything has been done, depicted very marvelously. Then comes expression of emotions. We generally call it bhav for Hindu art, but in Islamic art, that is Mughal art also, there is beautiful expression of emotion. If the emperor is shown strict, that thing comes on his whole portrait. Then if servants are shown obedient, the queen is restless, or the boatmen are nervous, everything, every idea, every expression has been done clearly. Then use of gold and silver colors. Mughal Empire was a very rich empire, so golden and silver has been done widely. In necklaces, in jewelry, in footwears, in borders, there is a lot of use of golden color. Even the plumes on the turban, the thing which is put on the turban has been done in gold color. So all the garments, everything, the small details with gold color are wonderful. Then comes beautiful use of calligraphy. Most of the paintings have beautiful calligraphy, generally done in black ink. Even the artists' names have been written beautifully. The next feature is highly populated canvases or paintings. The crowded compositions have been handled very beautifully. You can see the example of Krishna lifting Mount Govardhan or marriage procession of Tara Shikoh, where the artist has handled it very beautifully. Even other paintings where there is multiple perspective, the artists were real experts in handling a lot of people in the canvas. Then our last feature is ornamental designs. All the paintings, be it courts, be it the interior of the palaces, the ceilings, the floors, the carpets, they have beautiful designs on them. They could be geometrical or floral, or there could be creepers, but the designs have been handled very beautifully. Sometimes in Diwane Khas or Royal Court or public court like Diwane Aam, different types of tent walls also have these ornamental designs on them. Now we reach the explanation of paintings. First painting is Krishna lifting Mount Govardhan. Artist is Miskin. Period is 1585 to 1980. That is the Akbar's reign. Then medium is tempera on paper and collection is National Museum, New Delhi. The subject matter of the painting is that this illustration is from Harivamsa Puran. I'll make the correction in the book in the subsequent edition because this is one subject which is in Bhagavad Puran also and other series related to Krishna. In this painting, Lord Krishna has been shown lifting Mount Govardhan to prevent villagers from the flood which has been caused by god Indra. Now description. This painting shows a miracle in which Krishna takes Virat Roop and lifts a huge mountain effortlessly like a huge umbrella. He is dressed in pitambar, that is yellow clothes, and he is wearing a large white garland. Under this mountain, all villagers gather with their belongings and cattle and they take shelter from the rain. The mountain is multicolored. It has deer, monkeys, trees, shrubs and grass on it and it looks very realistic due to the massive rocks on it. The treatment of the mountain has Persian influence in this. The crowd which is gathered is also done with a lot of realism. All faces are different. The anxiety, the tension which is there because of the flood and what will happen in future shows on their faces. The figures are generally in Ded Chashma and Lord Krishna has been shown in Ek Chashma. Krishna's posture is very relaxed and he gets centrality in the composition. He looks like an important figure. The clothes and background are in complete contrast. The expression of human figures is also very convincing and Mughal artists have executed this miracle very beautifully. This was done on the order of their great emperor to teach religious tolerance in his whole empire. Next painting is Falcon on a Bird Rest. Artist is Ustad Mansoor. Period is 1618 to 20. Which was a period of Emperor Jahangir. Medium is tempera on paper and collection is in Maharaja Savai Man Singh Museum, City Palace, Jaipur. The painting that you see, the smaller one on the slide, it is also of a falcon, but it is from Pahari school, which was done under Mughal influence. And this is in the collection of Cleveland Museum, Ohio, US. Subject matter is easy. This painting is a detailed study of a falcon. Jahangir was very fond of collecting birds and this bird somehow got killed by a cat. So Jahangir wanted to preserve the memory of the bird and this painting is still there in Jahangir Nama. Now the description and color scheme. Describing a painting is easy. You have to start piece by piece and then move to the overall impact and color scheme. In this painting, there is a tamed falcon who is shown sitting on a cushioned bird rest. His face is turned towards left and therefore only one eye is visible. He is a majestic predator and he has those round cruel eyes of a predator which are carefully studied in the painting. The falcon has been painted in white against a yellow background with brown details on its folded wings in which every layer is clearly visible. A sharp curved beak is painted in light brown and deep yellow ochre. It has large claws which are used to capture prey and they have been modelled very carefully. There is a small patch of feathers on the back of its neck which is turned towards left. There are black markings all over the body. Then the bird is fastened to the rest with a thin string around its neck which shows that it is a pet bird. The background has small patches of green foliage scattered here and there. There are birds flying in the distant sky on top of the painting. On the bird rest, Nadir ul Asr is signed by Ustad Mansoor, who was awarded this title by Jahangir. Then three words, Jahangir Pacha on top, Pahari near the falcon and Uttam on the bottom are also written in Devanagari Lipi. So this painting has done complete justice to bring likeness of a real bird. Our next painting is Kabir and Raidas. Artist is Ustad Fakirullah Khan. Period is circa 1640 AD, which falls under Shah Jahan. Then medium is tempera on paper and collection is National Museum, New Delhi. The subject matter of the painting is that this painting shows two prominent Hindu saints, which is Kabir and Raidas. And this theme somehow reflects the time of Mughal era in which all religions were treated as equal, and Muslim ruler gave patronage to a theme which is on a very secular subject. This is a horizontal painting of Saint Kabir and Raidas. Kabir has been shown weaving cloth on his loom, and Raidas is sitting close by holding a string of beads. They are both in a meditative mood and are in deep thoughts. There is a divine expression of peace and contentment on both their faces. The painting shows a simple and peaceful Indian village life in which work is worship. The light and shade has been used to highlight the ribs of thin and lean torso of Saint Kabir. The portraits are very realistic and the background is misty, which is creating a spiritual kind of aura. The hut is also very typical of rural Indian setting. The colors are light and earthy. They are generally browns and yellows. The border of the painting is light brown and shades are also very fine. The plain border, which is in dark tone, it is giving more emphasis to the scene which has been shown within. The perspective has also been caught in the painting, and the painting has depth in spite of very little use of color. So this painting, which has no royal flamboyance or splendor or show off, has documented two great men in a beautiful work of art. The last painting is Marriage Procession of Darashikoh. Artist is Haji Madni. Period is circa 1750 AD, which is the provincial Mughal school. Then medium is tempera, which is watercolor medium on paper. And collection is National Museum, New Delhi. And subject matter is already given in the topic, in the title of the painting, which is Marriage Procession of Darashikoh. Darashikoh was the elder son of Shah Jahan. Now description. There are a lot of figures and a lot of things happening in the painting, so description would be a little longer. Darashikoh, who is seen on a decorated brown horse, is wearing a traditional sehra. He is leading the procession, followed by three attendants. One is bearing a candle, the second one is holding the reins of the horse, and the third one is carrying a chauri. Chauri is an important element when there is something important and sacred happening. His father Shah Jahan, he is shown with a greenish colored nimbus to certify that he is of a high status, and he is also riding another decorated horse right behind Darashikoh. Most of the royal people are shown riding horses, and some of them are on foot, which are proceeding towards the bride's side. A large gathering of men and women is joyfully singing and clapping while receiving the barat. Most of the figures and faces are ek chashma, but a few are also in ded chashma. The groom is dressed in an angrakha and is wearing white pearl jewelry. The women from the groom's side are shown on elephants in the background. Beside them, drummers are also seated on the elephants. Then marvelous depiction of various types of fireworks can be seen illuminating the background. Many people in the painting are holding candles. A dancer can also be seen in the foreground. The costumes of all present in the wedding are of typically Mughal style. All possible colors with golden highlights can be seen in the dresses of people who are decked up for the royal wedding. Perspective is also successfully shown in the line of figures on the left, and they are decreasing in size as we go towards the farther end of the painting. The placing of horses and figures is beautifully aligned and organized so that there is no overcrowding in the painting. The faces are carefully studied so that every face looks different and there is individual likeness. There is also a beautiful decorated border which complements the whole composition. So this painting has been meticulously done, and it brings out the joy of the special occasion. That's all I have for Mughal School. Do watch all chapters for thorough understanding along with the MCQ videos. You can follow the links given in description. Leave a comment or query to recognize the effort. Do share and subscribe. Thank you very much and all the best.